Welcome to Right Fit Leader, a podcast from Alec Broadfoot and the Hire with Confidence team at Vision Spark. This is where visionaries, entrepreneurs, and leaders learn how to hire leaders, lead better, and build teams that last. Through expert insights, real client stories, and conversations with top leaders, you will hear how we find A players for your business. This is Right Fit Leader.
Welcome back to the Right Fit Leader podcast, where we explore how visionaries can elevate their leadership, surround themselves with the right people, and scale their companies without losing the culture and core values that matter most. I'm your host, Alec Broadfoot, and today we welcome someone who deeply understands the power of clarity, wisdom sharing, AI, and scaling what makes companies truly exceptional. So our guest today is Evan Ryan, founder of Teammate AI, and author of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, AI as Your Teammate. It's a wonderful book. He's a former full-time digital nomad for 4 years, whose favorite places to live were Edinburgh, Scotland, Valencia, Spain, Mexico City, and the Thai Islands. Welcome, Evan.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to spend some time with you.
So what does it actually mean to treat AI as your teammate instead of a tool?
Yeah, I like to have fun, and I don't like to do boring stuff. And I've never met anybody before who said, save the fun stuff for somebody else and I'll handle all the boring stuff. And I think that for so long, really, especially in people's professional lives, but including in people's personal lives for the most part, technology has been handed to them. So you open up or you start a new job and you get a computer and you have your email and you have all your different tools that you have to use. And then you're taught how to use them. And to a certain degree, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, technology has become so complicated. It's become so burdensome at times that it feels like you are working for the technology, especially for frontline employees. Like you're spending more time just making sure that your project management tool is totally dialed in than you are actually doing project management. And it's just a very common problem, especially in growing businesses, because usually a process in a business, and AI is kind of the marriage between process and technology. Usually a process in the business is created because something in the business is on fire. And so because there's a repeated problem happening inside of the business, and people invent a process in order to solve that problem. But imagine that your business is like a stove that has 1,000 burners on it. You invent a process to put out the fire on the biggest burner. But that doesn't mean that in 6 months or in 6 years, you've gone back to that process to reevaluate, what do we need here? What data are we actually using? Or how could we automate this? Does this process or does this task even make sense for us anymore? Or is there some other new way that we can do it? And for us at Teammate AI, we define AI as just computers doing stuff that humans used to do or shouldn't do anymore. And so our kind of core question, our core philosophy is to ask, what if we could reevaluate some of the core processes in your business, some of the bottlenecks in your business, or the stuff that people have to do that they really don't want to do, but it's got to get done, we think, to keep the lights on. And if we could evaluate that, and then we could maybe re-engineer that process just so it could be a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Well, what if we could also automate that process? Well, probably that would save a lot of time, or it would really relieve a bottleneck, or it would really improve capacity. And so for us, making AI a teammate means taking all the stuff that the humans don't like to do anymore, they don't want to do anymore, it's very repetitive, it's very rote, giving those tasks to a computer so that the humans can drive the ball forward and can help move you into the future.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Something you said is that humans are really valuable. What do you mean by that in the world of AI?
I was on a call today, and it was a kind of an early discovery call, and the folks were saying, well, we have to do invoice reconciliation. So we have to see, do the invoices that we get match what we were supposed to pay, or are there any discrepancies that we should look at? But also, kind of paraphrasing their specific need, what if we could use really advanced data analytics to understand what the best marketing strategy is to sell a particular type of product even faster than we sell it right now? Well, the problem with that marketing strategy is right now we're not really collecting the data very well, but maybe the AI could collect the data for us, and then we could then use that data to then enhance our decision making inside of the business. And my question was, so what you're telling me is that you want to have AI collect massive amounts of data that you're not currently collecting, and then inform decisions that you're really not currently making. Meanwhile, you're paying humans to look at PDF invoices and make sure that the numbers match. Why don't we consider doing the opposite? Let's have the AI look at the invoices, make sure that the numbers match, and then have your human go in, start actually doing the data collection, start actually creating the strategy, start actually making the decisions and A/B testing and experimenting. And then only once the human has created a repeatable process around that do we then consider bringing AI in. And so I think that one of the big mistakes, especially that founder-led entrepreneurial companies that have a really big future make, is they confuse AI with their strategy. And the way that we see it is that your strategy is your strategy over the next 1 or 3 or 5 years. And AI's role should be to free up your people so that they can make that strategy happen faster versus having AI be your strategy. I've seen a lot of businesses spend exorbitant amounts of money because they decide we are going to be an AI first company. And what that means is that everything that we want to do now is going to stay in our existing processes with our existing people. And anything that we want to do in the future is going to happen with AI. But it's actually the reverse that is going to be the thing that takes you to the highest odds of success. We're going to automate all the stuff that your people are doing now so that they can be elevated to work on making your bigger future a reality. In the process, there will be all sorts of new tasks that will be created, many of which will be repetitive, and then you can automate those too. But that's only after you've made your 3-year future, your 1-year future happen. Then you do this cycle all over again, where you find the repetitive stuff, you automate it, and then you leverage your humans to create bigger and better value.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, you said, delegate to AI, elevate your people. You kind of said that, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
You don't want the tail wagging the dog, right? The tail being AI to wag the strategy for organization. So what are some common reasons your company is hired by your clients?
Our clients know that they want to grow, but either, first of all, they can't find people to do the work, or it's a high turnover role. And usually high turnover roles aren't super fascinating. They're not very motivating. They're usually extremely long hours, and they are boring as sin. That's why people leave. People that leave work every day feeling more energized than they showed up because, wow, I'm solving a hard problem. I'm making a difference. This is really fulfilling. I feel like I'm uniquely capable of doing this. They generally don't leave. Or at least they don't leave very often. You certainly don't categorize them as a high turnover role. So thing number one is, hey, I've got a high turnover role, or I can't hire for this particular role. I think that AI might be a great fit. Thing number two is I've got really great team members that are completely underutilized. I've got senior level talent that's working on junior level or sometimes intern level work. We need to free them up. But I don't really want to hire more people right now in order to do that work. I really just want to use my people a lot better. The third thing is I've got a capacity issue. So if we were to triple our number of customers, I would have to double the size of my staff. Usually that is a really good sign that AI is a great opportunity for you, because AI can do the stuff that is really taking a long time, that really is sort of draining for people. And then the people can work on all of the other things that are going on in there.
Yeah. So where have you seen AI fail miserably?
The biggest thing, there are two reasons why I see AI fail, at least the most expensive way. The first most expensive way is when companies and when leaders want to have AI do a job that is not currently being done. So that's making AI your strategy. We're a business that does X or Y or Z, but now we're going to do an entirely new thing with AI. That is an excellent experiment in my sort of experience at losing a lot of money very fast and not having fun doing it. The other way is, and I think that this kind of points towards the importance of great leadership. Leadership team listens to a podcast like this, so they go to a seminar or they watch a YouTube video, they go to a conference, and then they come back to their team and they say, we are going to be an AI first company. Figure out how. And usually it's the visionary inside of an organization that's doing that. And so, the deliverer of the message of salvation, that AI is going to be the first strategy in our company, is usually the visionary. They're extremely excited about it, in my opinion, rightfully so. But then what ends up happening is you end up having this weird sort of area where AI is exciting right up until we have to actually start implementing it, and the work becomes a little bit more difficult than we thought it was going to be. And the visionary in the organization doesn't really understand where their vision starts and stops. Now, the way to overcome that, and when the visionary doesn't understand where their vision starts and stops, usually they end up meddling in the day-to-day operations of the business. That ends up creating all sorts of interesting tension that's no fun. And then you end up getting this sort of like turn of phrase, which is that AI doesn't work for us. It's like, no, AI probably does work for you. It's just that you as CEO or you as founder probably aren't supposed to also be your process optimization and your chief technology officer, and your AI expert all at the same time. You're really supposed to be an expert in your future and in finding the right people and building the right team. So the way that you overcome that is first and foremost by having a great number two and delivering the message of salvation. That is, we want to become AI. I want to become AI first. Here's how I think that we can do it. Here's what I've learned, to the number two. And then letting your number two figure out, okay, what's the right way for me to talk about this with the team? What's the right way for us to consider implementing this? There are all sorts of tasks that your team, especially the frontline team, is doing that you have absolutely no idea what they're doing. But their direct report, their manager, or your number two probably does know. It just hasn't kind of surfaced at the top of the priority list. And so, in my opinion, the visionary in the organization deciding they want to be the head of the AI strategy is a really, really expensive, stressful, and painful mistake. Mm-hmm. Delegate that down to your number two, and then stay in touch with your number two really well, and you'll get a better outcome faster and cheaper. And your team will still like you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great strategy. And Vision Spark, we help companies find and hire great number twos, and we now have part of our vetting process an AI interview, and so we see if they have either they're AI savvy or they have the potential to be AI savvy, and we combine that with our Vision Spark assessment, the TIP assessment, talent impact profile, which measures certain aspects to determine that as well. So we are doing that now for clients who are like, hey, we need an AI savvy number two leader. We have seen with our clients that oftentimes the leadership team, so chief revenue officer, chief operations, head of sales marketing, CFOs, the leadership team members, we've seen our clients being really frustrated with the leadership team, their lack of adoption of AI. And so what do you think a leader, a visionary number two can do when their direct reports are really slow to adopt AI?
Yeah, there's a common joke right now in the AI circle, which is that 100% of CEOs think that 80% of their team is saving at least 10 hours a week with AI, when the reality is that it's probably closer to 8% of their team is saving 10 hours a week with AI. And so there are a lot of people right now that are really excited about AI, and they think that AI has a ton of potential. I'm one of them. But the reality is that most people, first and foremost, have no incentive to use it. Mm-hmm. Like you as a leader, I as a leader have plenty of incentive to use it. First of all, my task list is miles long. And so like I have plenty of stuff to fill my workday, as I'm sure you do too. And I've not met a CEO who's like, I'm really struggling to find stuff to do. But especially when you start to have folks on the leadership team that either, first of all, don't have their performance tied towards an incentive like this, or second, don't really have a reason to change. Maybe they're fighting other fires first. Maybe they're working through other problems first. It can create this sort of gridlock or this sort of tension. The other thing is, keep in mind that, kind of going back to where we started, most people have not played an active role in the way that their technology works for them since they decided if they were going to use an iPhone or Android. And even, by the way, your phone auto updates. So they don't even really have an active role in updating their phone. And so my recommendation as a leader and with the number 2 would be, first and foremost, to paint a really crystal clear vision of your future and your company's future for the leadership team. It should be so clear that your team is as emotionally attached to your vision as you are. That is point number 1. Usually, leadership teams, especially once you get below that number 2 leader, or once you get towards maybe a director, senior director level, they really are focused on this quarter, next quarter, or 3 quarters out, in my experience. But it's really easy to kind of forget, hey, this is where we're going in 3 years. This is where we're going in 5 years. This is what the future looks like for us. And then I think the second thing is, and this is a great job for the number 2 leaders, to say, if that's the future that we want to accomplish, that we want to be at, which is, by the way, much more fascinating, much more motivating. We're all getting paid more. Everything is much more successful. In order for us to do that, I need you to be running these things, these initiatives instead, or doing these things instead. Right now you're stuck in this minutia, and I'm going to need you doing that. But the minutia still is going to have to get done. We think the best tool to do that is going to be AI. But if it's not, that's okay. We'll address that with you, because you're going to have to cross that bridge one way or the other. And so I think that really, if you can just paint a crystal clear vision of the future for the organization, then number 2, paint a crystal clear vision for the future for that department or that group. And then 3, talk about what change you're going to need them accomplishing and what they need to drop in order to accomplish, in order to be able to make that change happen. And now all of a sudden you have some incentive in there. I think the last thing is, to be honest, most people are not really well trained in it. And just a little bit of training, a little bit of kind of like group sharing around how are you using this can really sort of help move things forward and help establish that momentum. It can be very, in my opinion, it can be very overwhelming to be looking at a chat box or be looking at a new kind of app and not know, hey, am I going to completely waste the next hour trying to use AI and it's still not going to work and I'm going to still have to do the job? And so I think making the environment pretty safe for it, creating some collaboration in the organization. I mean, there are some other tips and tricks, like create a Slack channel and have anybody who has a win with AI post what their win was. So there are all sorts of things that you can do like that, but most importantly is create incentive for them to use it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good, Evan. And we have seen that some leaders really respond to incentives. They're motivated by incentives. Others are really motivated by security. They want to know that they have a job for long term in their role. And so the uncertainty of AI is a threat. It's a concern. And so they are all about certainty, right? And us leaders are all about uncertainty. And so, we've had clients who they've communicated, hey, here's the incentive. We're going to update your bonus. Here is a threat. If you don't embrace AI, you'll be replaced by someone who does embrace AI. Then they get the message across, but then these leaders are still slow to adopt, even with the incentive, even with the threat. We've had a client who has even offered training, and their leadership team, one particular leader, is still not embracing AI. And so we did a tip assessment on this individual, and we found that this person's mental aptitudes, their actual mental acuity, was below average. So it's not an IQ measurement, but it's a learning speed. And so it's something that is just frankly overwhelming to them, and they just don't have the processing speed to learn it, embrace it, and implement it. And so, our client is really at a crossroads. Do I keep this leader that has our core values and the team loves, or do we replace them with someone that truly has the know-how, the want it factor, and the mental acuity to embrace AI? So it's a predicament for sure. So
yeah, actually, I'll comment on that if you don't mind. I think there are a couple of ways that I would slice that. So, if that individual really has a lot of institutional knowledge, the team really is rallying around them, and they could create value over the course of the next 5 or 10 years, like making a leader level higher, I'm telling you what you definitely know, is extremely challenging. And so then, maybe what that means is that person is not the right person to integrate AI into that group. But there may be somebody else in the organization that you can pull into that group who almost is sort of like an internal consultant. Like they're just helping that team sort of, understand what's going on. How can we automate a task? How can we train people up? What could be happening? I think there's a very big difference between that and the individual missing targets, missing benchmarks, missing KPIs. If there's a performance related issue, that's very different. But if the leadership team is just sort of struggling because they want to have AI be everywhere, but yeah, they have somebody who's not on the bleeding edge or on the leading edge of the adoption bell curve, I would not necessarily say that that's a deal breaker unless benchmarks get hit. I think the other thing is I do tend to agree that AI probably won't replace humans, but humans using AI will. That said, my general understanding is that for folks that aren't using AI, it falls into one of two buckets. Either they're extremely resistant to it and they're hostile to technology. They don't like new technology. They don't like new change. Those people play very important roles to me because I try to get them hired by my competitors. Or they just don't see the value in it yet. And so it's like, what's in it for me? And maybe it's that you spend less time doing stuff you don't like. Maybe it's bonus. Maybe it's in order to achieve a better benchmark or whatever it is. But I think that's the leader's job, is to figure out, where are we actually at here? And do I just want to have AI in every level of my organization to say that I do? Or is this actually going to be a strategic objective for this group where we're going to miss benchmarks? One's a leadership failure. The other is just, it's okay for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking ahead 3 years from now, how do you think AI changes everyday opportunities, our jobs?
3 years is hard to look ahead. Like I feel like I have a relatively clear vision of like 18 months.
Okay.
3 years is really hard. I think if you had gone back 18 months and you had said that there would be a lot of experimental AI tools, like I'm going to date the podcast, but Claude Cowork or OpenClaw or some of these AI browsers that are out. There will be a lot of experimental AI tools, Perplexity Computer being another one. And they'll all be released and they can control your computer and they can accomplish tasks for you. And you can even text your computer and your computer will do tasks while you're away, while you're at the park with your kids or you're on a flight or whatever it is. And everybody would still be struggling to find ways to use it productively. I would have been fairly surprised. To me, it seems like I think that the tools and the technologies that companies have now will become actually useful with AI over the next 18 months to 36 months. I think that your project management platform, for example, or Excel or Salesforce or HubSpot, or a lot of these tools that folks are using on the day to day, I think that the AI will actually become useful over the course of the next year and a half to 3 years. And I think that people will not know how useful the AI is. It'll just feel the same, kind of, because there will be new tasks, there will be new work, there will be new responsibilities. And so I think that the AI, instead of the humans needing to go to the AI and seek out, how do I use you? How do I improve my life with this? I think the AI is going to come to the humans a little bit more, but it's going to come to the tools that you're primarily already using. I think step number 2 is Claude Code seems to be the killer app with AI. And it makes sense because coding at the end of the day has a really, really sort of direct feedback loop. Does your code work or does it not?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we're going to see a flourishing of new applications in the next 3 years that solve very specific challenges or automate very specific processes. I don't think everybody's going to become a coder, but I do think that there are going to be a lot of little mini apps that people will subscribe to for $5 a month, $15 a month, that'll automate something that just takes 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. And then I think the third thing is, one of the kind of core philosophies that I have is that the more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. I think that leadership will become more valuable over time with AI and not less valuable over time. And so I think that the role of leadership in organizations will just really drive a lot more culture. Culture will be a much more important conversation than it even is now. I think having clear, consistent, concise strategy will be extremely important. Having the right people in the right seats will be extremely important. And then I think lastly is having a vision for your future and being willing to ignore interesting opportunities to stick to it will be really important for leaders, because right now there's so much opportunity out there. It's sort of hard to sort through. And I know I'm experiencing, like, my team is coming to me every day saying, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this, we could do that. It's like, does this fit where we want to be in 3 years? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, I have to ruthlessly cut it off. And so I think that every organization is going to be feeling that over the course of the next couple of years. But generally, I think the future is bright.
We had our annual back in February, and 2-day annual, and we were realizing the same things. And we just said, we have to focus and grow. So that's our theme for 2026, focus and grow. One of my favorite stories is the story about, will it make the boat go faster? And so it had to do with this Great British crew team. And I don't know if you've heard this story, Evan, but they failed miserably in one of the Olympics, and they said this is unacceptable. So for the next 3 years after that, every decision that they made was under one premise: will it make the boat go faster? That was their sole determining factor. They even looked at, should we be going to the pubs till 3 a.m? No, it's not going to make the boat go faster. So we're not going to be doing that. And I think so often us entrepreneurs, we have to have that type, will it make the boat go faster, in our organization. And just tying it together with, you don't want the AI strategy to wag the dog. You want it to be, complementary. So, I love that. Evan,
what do you think? Where do you think that AI and number 2 sort of fits in over the course of the next 2 or 3 years? Because you're approaching this from the other side.
Yeah, I think the leaders that are hired have to be AI savvy. And I also think that there needs to be training for current leaders so they can become AI savvy. And if there are a very slow adoption, or the leader just doesn't get it, they don't want it, they don't want to be AI savvy, incorporate AI, I do think the company has to make a decision of, do we let this person go? Is there another role in the organization that'll suit them? I love your idea about bringing along a consultant, but that is another line item on the profit and loss statement. So, but it's a great idea, and that leader has to not feel threatened by that consultant.
Can you define AI savvy for me?
So I think it's has to be something that's evolving, right? So it can't just be, well, I have a basic knowledge of ChatGPT that I learned 6 months ago. I know how to have good prompts, right? It has to be someone who's continually learning and embracing that technology. They're reading, they're listening to podcasts and audio about new things. They're on subscriptions of newsletters about AI. So they constantly need to learn AI, and they need to just like you were tech savvy, right? Like years ago, you would probably before your time, but it wasn't uncommon to see on a resume, proficient in Microsoft Word, right? And so we kind of laugh at that now, right? But we don't want someone that's proficient in Microsoft Suite. We want someone who's tech savvy. They can handle all the web-based applications that we use every day. And I think the same is true with AI savvy. They have to. It's another level of tech savviness that it's a moving level of savviness, because AI savvy today is going to be different than AI savvy 6 months from now or 3 years from now.
Can I take the other side of that, actually?
Yeah.
So the other side of that, I think, would be, so like, I think that one of the big confusion points that a lot of people have is they say, okay, well, that means that I have to be a power user at AI. And I don't think that's necessarily true. And I think that especially the higher up in the organization that you are, the more, first of all, you're more aware. I think I definitely agree on the awareness piece.
Yes.
The more aware that you have to be of what's going on around you. But really, I think that it's that awareness is to fuel asking great questions to the team. And so I actually feel like the power users of the organization should not be the leaders of the organization. The power user, and especially the ruthless experimenters, in my opinion, should not be the leaders of the organization. In my opinion, the power users and the ruthless experimenters should actually be infiltrating every team. And so when I was mentioning like, hey, I think an internal consultant could be a really good idea. What I mean is you take somebody who is using AI so well that they've saved 10, 20, 30 hours a week, and you put them in a new role that you've created to have them help other people save 10, 20, 30 hours a week. And it's the leader's job to ask, what are the problems inside of my group? What are the problems? Who needs to be freed up inside of my group? Or does this new thing that somebody else published a case study on, does this pertain to us? Yes or no? But I think that a trap is requiring the leaders to be power users, because I think that usually, at least in my organization and the organizations we've seen have done really well, when the leaders are the power users, usually they leave the rest of the team behind and they end up getting too bogged down in the details.
Yeah.
Versus when the leaders are just awareness and they're like open-minded to it, they usually get really strong results.
Yeah, no, I echo that. The awareness is super important. And that's where I think they constantly have to be learning, and they don't have to be the doers of AI. They don't have to be the implementing, but you're right. Asking the right questions, galvanizing the right people, knowing what possible solutions are. But yeah, we talk about this in our organization too, where, the number 2 leader, if you're on a ship, that number 2 can't be in the engine room the whole time, because the ship is going to go off course, right? So they can go down for a little bit, they can help out for a little bit, but they have to captain the ship. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right, Evan.
Yeah, I think that there's a way, especially I think that Silicon Valley has done a really good job of selling that everybody needs to be AI first all the time, like constantly using it, constantly embracing new tools, et cetera. And I think I kind of take the opposite side of that. I think that leaders should absolutely be using tools. They should be experiencing what their team is experiencing. They should be, using ChatGPT to answer questions better, or Claude to answer questions better. I get really concerned though when the CEO of $100 million business or of a $50 million business, or they have 10 billion AUM, is rebuilding a website using Claude Code.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've got some challenges we need to work through.
Yeah. And I think oftentimes what I've seen amongst my colleagues, and I actually embraced myself, is this ability to create. And so I had to come up with a personal budget this weekend. And I said, okay, it's been a little crazy. I have a couple different credit cards, a couple different bank statements. What I want to do is upload all my files to ChatGPT, have it analyze the data, and come up with a budget on how I should be spending. And ChatGPT was not working. It kept on saying, please upload this file and we can make recommendations. And I would upload the file and it would say, once you upload that file, I can help you. And so this went on for about an hour. And I said, man, ChatGPT is ignorant. They can't help me with this, what I thought was a simple task. So I decided to go to another AI platform, and it said, we are unable to do this. I'm like, what the heck? Like, this seems like a simple task. So I actually Googled, here's my issue. What do you recommend? And Google recommend use a financial planning tool that already has AI built in it. Duh. And so the very first one it recommended, I chose, and it did exactly what I wanted to do. Not only, I didn't have to upload anything. I just had to give it login access to the different credit card and bank statements. And in no time, it did what I wanted to do. So I think sometimes we're looking to create when there's already solutions out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the really important thing is to be be intimately familiar and aware of your problems. And then you can ask the question, is using a ChatGPT the right tool for the job? Is using Excel the right tool for the job? Is using Google to find if there are any tools out there the right tool for the job? But that's the awareness piece that I think that leaders need to be so kind of on top of. Like, you are aware, I need to do this, and I have a whole tool belt full of technology solutions that may be able to solve this problem. My job is to figure out which solution now I'm going to use.
Yeah. So Evan, how can people find you and get a hold of you if they need some help with their automation, with some AI work?
Yeah, you head to ai.evanryan.com or teammateai.com. I do a lot of writing as well. So if you head to teammateai.com/blog, you can get on the email list for that. I promise that I'm actually a pretty good writer. At least I like to think that I am. And I try not to spam inboxes or bore you.
And if they want to get a hold of your book, what's the easiest way to buy their book?
Yeah, the easiest way to buy the book is to go on Amazon. It's AI as Your Teammate, and it's a quick read. I didn't want to edit or write a long book. It's a quick read. And it's really great for people that are non-technical and they're looking to figure out how can they get started thinking about AI.
Yeah. And I highly recommend the book. I read it maybe a year or so ago, and just a wonderful book. So Evan, thank you so much for being with us here today on the Right Fit Leader podcast.
Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for listening to Right Fit Leader, brought to you by VisionSpark. Have questions or ready to hire your Right Fit Leader? Email us at discover@vision-spark.com. Until next time, remember VisionSpark is your go-to partner for finding leaders and building teams.